All right, welcome to the first of our fall webinar series, using food as medicine in your everyday life. So I am passionate about food. I'm passionate about bringing the entire family around the kitchen table to beautiful, wholesome food. I think we've really gotten away from that in today's society with the ability to order whatever you want any time of day or night, and it actually can just show up at your door. Well, for those of us who are approaching 60, like in 6 months, I have a hair that's going to drive me crazy here. It's we know what it was like to oh, I can't wait until whenever we're going to go wherever, like it was a special occasion. And now eating out, getting takeout is just common every day. And I think it's really relevant to understand that that food really becomes more of an addiction, and those highly processed, ultra processed foods that so many of us are consuming can really increase our years of disability and decrease our longevity. And as a 59-year-old woman, that matters, because I got a couple littles downstairs that I intend to want to run and jump and play with. So again, at any point in time, this is being recorded. I expect a large number of people to not be with me live and to be watching this recording. So welcome to anybody who is here. At any point in time, for those of you who are live, put in a question, a comment, I heard this, even if it's not relevant to what I'm speaking about, or maybe it just comes up in your head. I'll address it as we go, or I'll address it at the end. I'm going to stay with 1 hour precisely. And for those of you who are listening at a later time, feel free to email me, message me on Instagram or Facebook, go to our website and send me a message as well, whatever, because whatever you're asking, needing, whatever, I'm going to cover this in the next 3 future webinars, which I expect to take place about every 2 weeks within this 2-month period of time. And then we're practically in the new year. So let me share my screen. Get to our presentation. And let me play. All right, so here we go. Hippocrates many, many moons ago, said something of the phrase, "Let food be thy medicine." And I think was relevant then, and I think it's more relevant today, being, as I mentioned earlier, that we have this influx of highly palatable, ultra-processed food that is high in salt, high in fat, especially saturated fat, and high in sugar. And there are so many people that are drawn to those foods, right? We could just say that really truthfully. You're drawn to that food, the crunchy, the salty, the savory, the sweet, whatever floats your boat. And at the end of the day, the problem is that we are not getting appropriate nutrition. As a matter of fact, even though we have an obesity pandemic worldwide, most of us are malnourished. How could that possibly be? So we're going to talk today, generalities about the concept of letting food be your medicine. You will have some takeaways today to actually put into your life the next meal you consume, and how I work with my clients to take that science and evidence. By the way, I don't expect you to know the science and evidence. I don't expect you to do your own research. It's up to people like myself, highly educated nutrition experts, to be able to give you the tools to be able to lead a long, healthy, independent, joyful life. The bottom line is we've got to take the science and the evidence and put it on your plate. And when you go to the cardiologist, your primary care, and they said, you need to lose weight and you need to exercise, what does that mean? Like, can we have some concrete steps to make these things happen? So if I can figure out how to make my screen go. All right. So who am I? I think it's really important, because people say to me all the time, did you read that book? Like, there was this doctor. It's like, well, who is that doctor? Did you do any research into who that person is? Do they have the credentials, the experience to be able to influence you for whatever they're trying to sell you, give you, tell you, right? So I'm many things. And I think what's important to understand is that over my 59 years, I started advocacy in college in my late teens. And today I consider myself an interventional, which means I intervene in my clients' lives and even my friends like you lives. An interventional health practitioner, which means I'm not just talking about nutrition, though nutrition is absolutely my focus with all of you, but I'm not going to leave anything else under the umbrella of healthy human left to your own devices. I will speak about it to my clients and to all of you if you want to listen. So not only am I a trained chef, which I always thought like that was my first education, my first career. I thought, oh, what a waste of time and effort. And it all came back to prove to be really incredibly useful in my role as an interventional health practitioner. I was a fitness professional and still am for my entire adult life as a personal trainer, group exercise trainer, teacher, consultant for people needing to add exercise into their lives in a healthful way. I am a patient advocate. I work with my clients to help them advocate for their health, to get them to the right medical professionals, to work on shared decision-making. We're not going to put that medical provider on a pedestal. Well, my cardiologist said this. We are going to be part of the process and advocating for our health. I have my bachelor's degree in dietetics, which I've had for a million years back in the 80s. And I will tell you in terms of the science and evidence in terms of nutrition, the basics have remained. There are certain things that we know more, certain things that we can actually toss away. But I think what you need to understand is that smart people can change their minds. And so whether you're medical professionals, whether you're a mom, whether you're a teacher, whatever you are, we have an opportunity in life to change our mind when new information is given to us so that we can be more productive human beings. So along with that bachelor's many moons ago, I also have my master's of science in integrative and functional nutrition. And that allows me to, number one, be able to really look at the science and evidence, the research that's out there, and be able to see how important it is it useful? And that paired with the mountains of evidence that we have in terms of anecdotal information, life experiences, how do I help my clients move towards a healthy eating pattern and achieve all of their goals? Number one, for the majority of them are weight loss. That comes along with what I do, but really health gain. So that is who I am. And really my goal in life is to bring the family back around the kitchen table to wholesome, beautiful food. This is not my table, but it looks very similar to my table, which you can see on my website, where on Sundays we have Sunday dinner, anywhere from 8 to 30 people. COVID slowed us down a little bit, but we're ramping things up again. And this is where, we're able to sit together to beautiful food. I don't dictate what you put on your plate, but I dictate what is put out for you to choose from. Meaning we have treats and splurges and wholesome options as well. And conviviality really is about relating to, occupied with, and fond of feasting and drinking in good company. That needs to be happening. The problem is it shouldn't be happening to chicken nuggets and French fries and Diet Coke. All right, beautiful, wholesome food. And when everybody's participating, it's not so cumbersome for the cook. Take a drink of my water, always telling my clients we want to always have with us a water-based beverage. Good opportunity for you to encourage you to always drink a cup, a mug, a gallon, whatever you want to do at every meal and snack, and have water with you the rest of the time. And you will always be hydrated and you never have to think about it again. All right. So who is your nutrition influencer? Well, number one, I hope I'm at the top of the list now. All right. I'm going to clearly state, beware. There are so many people out there spewing nutrition information that is false, that is misleading, that is harmful to your health. And you have to understand what the goal is, right? Of selling you that pill, potion, supplement, book, whatever it is, without giving a crap about what happens to you. right? So I don't care if it's the latest diet book. So I literally had a prospective client bring to me a thick packet called the NSNG diet. And we sat together and looked through it. It was the no sugar, no grain diet. And as we went through it, I said, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because it's bull. But the bottom line is they're taking away major food groups. What it's doing for that individual who, by the way, the goal is weight loss. Nothing about it was about health gain. And we're restricting foods that you would normally eat. By the way, a lot of those foods, the sugary foods and the foods that have carbohydrates and starches and grains are usually not necessarily wholesome foods, right? So it's a baked potato, which is innocent and beautiful, that we put butter and cheese and bacon and all kinds of things on top of there. And now we have the saturated fat fest, right? And then, we take beautiful, wholesome food. We're talking about the donuts and the pastries and all these things that sit in the convenience store that live for years on end. So we take away those things, but they also took away beautiful, wholesome carbohydrates and grains. And by the way, they took away sugar, which means things like fruits and different things go away. But there's so much value in those type of foods. So again, what is the latest diet trend, book, whatever? And if you want to talk about any of those, if we have time at the end, put them in the chat bar. I got something to say about single one of them. Maybe it's your neighbor. Hey, my neighbor, I heard this all the time. My neighbor is doing the ketogenic diet, and they said they've never felt better. They lost all this weight, etc. Maybe it's your medical provider. Like my husband's yesterday when we went to a new cardiologist together, and my husband was not going to open his mouth in terms of nutrition because he's got me. But I said to the cardiologist, I said, so what's your opinion on nutrition? And he says, I think nutrition is really important. I think a Mediterranean diet is the perfect way to go. Now, I take offense at that, not because I happen to be of the Mediterranean persuasion, but what about the Asian population and the Latin population and the Greek population? We have so many food cultures who have beautiful, wholesome food approaches. So to say Mediterranean diet, now we shoved all this into the box, but really, what does that mean? I mean, we can Google Mediterranean diet, but there's no clear cut. It's like, what's your cholesterol? Well, if your total cholesterol is under 200, you are in the parameters of normal. Anything over 200 or 200 above is out of range. That's very clear cut in a box. But Mediterranean diet, ketogenic diet, high protein, low fat, what does that mean to the person who is actually participating, right, in that diet approach? It means all kinds of things. Perhaps, you're following people on social media. Maybe you found me on social media. I mean, on social media, forget it. It's a scary, scary place. And the bullies, you got to eat organic. You can't eat this. Watch out if it's GMO, blah, 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 blah. Sugar's bad for you. And then Dr. Google, we're all guilty. Even I'm guilty of Dr. Googling it. But I also have the education to know where to go and what to ask. And even sometimes I'll read something like, really? It kind of starts to draw me in, and then I clear my head and read a little bit further and look at what they're spewing out there. And I go, okay, relax, settle back down. So the bottom line is, if your goal, your number one goal when it comes to your diet approach is losing weight, take your pick. I don't care what diet approach you use, as long as it shoves you into a calorie deficit. Perhaps with the ketogenic diet, it actually skirts the normal metabolic pathway. There's all kinds of ways we manipulate our food. We take away food, we reduce the calories, we do all kinds of things. You will lose weight as long as you are following along there. And as long as we can get you into a calorie deficit. When you look at the numbers of global wellness, $4.4 trillion in 2020, we look at the health, eating, nutrition, and weight loss bubble, almost 100 bill. I don't even know how to say it. $946 billion. I don't know what like the up is of that. If I scroll up to that, $946 billion spent ultimately on moving the number on that scale. And then, by the way, because so many people think they can out-train the bad diet, now we had another $738 billion spent on physical activity. And by the way, those treadmills and Pelotons that you might have in your closet, basement, whatever, end up being clothes hangers for so many of us. So it's really important to understand, what is your goal? And your goal, weight loss, you don't need me. Go pick your poison. The problem is that while you're doing that diet approach, anybody can do anything for a certain amount of time, a week, a month, 3 months. After about 3 months, most people get frustrated. It's not sustainable, these diet approaches, because they've taken away things you enjoy. They teach you nothing about a healthy eating pattern. You learn nothing other than restriction and punitive behaviors. It actually leads to disordered eating, which we already are rampant in. And, the fact is that, you look at that diet approach and, there's always something appealing. Clean eating, healthy eating. I'm going to tell this. People come to me, prospective clients. I give a 30-minute consultation, complimentary. We have conversations. They get to tell me their story, why we're here today, why we're having this conversation. And they always say, well, I eat clean, I eat healthy. And then I'm like, so tell me what you ate yesterday. Sometimes they'll say, well, that's not a representation of my normal. I'm like, well, it's what you ate yesterday. And then secondly, like, what do you consider healthy, clean? And then they'll share what that looks like. I'll tell you that I just took my granddaughter to gymnastics. So I was the senior amongst all the moms. They're all moms today, sitting around, waiting, watching their kidlets. There was a whole conversation of a mom who was eating some kind of bar and how, she bought it at Costco and how this is how much it costs and this is why it's so good. And then started talking to other people about how they belong to this particular service and they order these foods and they're healthier snacks, they're organic. And, when you read the label and then somebody started to talk about toxicities and how we have to be so careful. I was like, we had this whole rabbit hole of misinformation that, like these bars, these foods that are incredibly highly processed that come in a wrapper, right? Single serving size. We could talk all about those foods and how they are not foods that I condone, nor participate in. And I teach exactly why. So any of those things are on your mind, put it in here, or we'll talk about it in future webinars. You got to tell me, so I remember to talk about them if we don't have time today. But these are all diet approaches. And in all honesty, as I mentioned to you, other than the Mind diet and a Mediterranean diet approach, I am not fans. The Mind diet is a diet approach which brings lots of plants into our life, which is what I highly recommend. I didn't say plant exclusive, though if you're a vegan, enjoy yourself. But I'll tell you, we need to make sure you're getting certain nutrients that you will miss because you don't eat animal protein, but that's your choice. But the Mind dietism and the Mediterranean diet approach are mostly plant-based diets, which is what I adhere to. A flexitarian diet approach with accoutrements added in there that are giving you appropriate nutrition, no more malnutrition that actually lead to brain health, heart health, colorectal health, so many things. So what is your goal? I would love you guys who are with me. I think there's about a dozen of us out there. Like, what's your goal? Throw it in the chat bar, just for fun. I'm not calling you out. I'm not doing anything with it, but I just like to know, what is your goal? Maybe you're going to tell me your age and tell me what your goal is in life and why, is food part of it? Because I did have a conversation with a young man who works out before or after me when I train 2 days a week. And he had just turned 39. I wished him happy birthday. And I said to him, so what's the plan? He's like, plan is I am 1/3 of the way through my life. And I did a little quick math in my head. And I'm like, really? Like, you plan to live to 140? And he's like, yep, we have the technology. And I said, wow. I said, well, I'm going for the 90s, not wanting to 120s. And I said, so how do you plan to get there? And he says, well, I exercise every day. And I said, interesting. I said, can I just make a statement? Just make a comment. I said, you exercise once a day. Great. How many times a day do you eat? And he said 6 or 7 times a day. And I said, oh, so you eat 6 or 7 times a day. Let's go at 6 times 7 days a week. That's 42 food encounters times how many weeks a year, times how many, years, right, that you want to live. And yet your exercise once a day is your priority. Just going to tell you that I really think we all need to consider the fact that we have all these food encounters every single day, that food could be our priority. And it doesn't have to be complicated, but it should be joyful. You should have a game plan. You should have a template. You should not feel chaotic in your food choices. And you should love, I want to say every single morsel you consume, but I'm going to say the majority of food you consume. Oh, come on. Nobody's going to put anything in the chat bar for me. Oh, so disappointing. I love to have a little bit of interaction with people. So what is that goal? Because as I mentioned, the majority of people who come to me initially come for weight loss. Within a few weeks, once I'm working with them, we transfer their goal to be health gain. All right. Maybe you want to do like I want to do for my 60th birthday and climb Whitney and Half Dome. Maybe you want to be like me and I want to continue to run and jump and play with my grandkids for the long haul. Maybe you just want to start walking. Maybe you just want to sleep better. Maybe you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Maybe you have brain fog. Maybe you have gut distress, gas and bloating. What is it? What do you want in life? And then how do we get you there? So contrary to popular belief, my friends, you actually can absolutely have your cake and eat it too. My goal for you today through this webinar series for the clients that I work with on a regular basis is to teach you to use real, wholesome food to live a long, healthy, independent, joyful life. But guess what? Doesn't come through osmosis, right? You actually have to participate. And what we're doing right now is we're participating in the educational part of it, right? I'm giving you education, how to move towards a healthier food approach, right? Diane, thank you for that. And of course, we're going to talk about it. Oh, my chat's disabled. Well, that's interesting. Go ahead. I have no idea why that is, but go ahead and put it. I don't think I can change it. Go ahead and put things into the panelists can chat, attendees can chat with anybody. I think I just changed it. So it can easily just go into the Q&A bar, but I think the chat is available now. Thank you for that interaction. So I wanted to believe that as I taught my clients the power of wholesome food and how to consume it in a calculated way, that I could put at the forefront of their mind why. Along with, I want to be thinner, I want to feel healthier, I want to live a long life, I want to feel better, right? I also wanted to believe that there were other reasons, right? Like my grandchildren, like this fantastic trip I took with my youngest to South Africa. Can you see the giraffes in the background in the center? Like we just came back from Hawaii, and that's at the top of Haleakala. Or me going to this family camp and conquering every fear I have of heights, right? So that's me up there on the ropes course. I thought that the whys for my clients, I know for me, it's enough. But I thought for my clients, I could get them to pull out those whys, really focus on those people and those desires to help them put food first in their lives. But It doesn't work for the majority of my clients, especially my clients who have struggled with their weight, with their health, with their entire adult life. We know if you're an alcoholic, you want to get sober, you will never be able to drink alcohol again and your life will change dramatically. You're a drug addict. There are many drugs that people could actually choose to become sober from and their lives will change dramatically. We know there are drugs like Oxycontin and other things, heroin, that will plague people and lead them to their early deaths because it's such a powerful drug. But I will tell you that for a large portion of clients, and perhaps for a large portion of you, food is your drug. You get to consume it multiple times a day. We can't make it go away. We can try to take foods that, you know, we crave, you know, the sweet and the salty and, you know, things that we don't think are so healthy for us and, you know, toss them away and get rid of them for a period of time, but they're right there at our fingertips, right? So we have to find an eating pattern that helps to quell the cravings, where we understand the value of that food and we see, and we can really start to enjoy the food, which means you actually have to do a little bit of cooking. And I know there's so many food vendors out there, you know, Healthy Fresh and all these type of things, but they're expensive. You still have to do some work, which is what I always find, you know, interesting, unless you're buying something frozen or fresh. And then when you get those frozen and fresh things, like the amount of waste, the boxes and the styrofoam and the cooling packs, it's too overwhelming. I just can't be part of that. I can't. So I want to teach you, I want to start to show you how to bring more wholesome food into your life. And it doesn't mean all those other things have to go away. Maybe they're just accoutrements that can add in to help make life a little bit easier when you're crazy and chaotic. But I also want to reduce the chaos, not only starting in your food life, which by the way, will then start to quell the chaos in the rest of your life as well. So if you don't mind, if you can just make note or screenshot these questions that are coming, so that I can make sure if I don't cover them today, that I cover them in future webinars. So thank you guys and continue to post them, please. So I want to challenge you to what is that vision of the new you? Are you thinking like, when I get thin, like I'm going to be able to travel, or I'm going to find a significant other, or I'm going to all of a sudden turn into this really fit senior citizen, or maybe I'm going to have this really joyful family, or maybe I'm going to go back to school. What does that vision of the new you look like? And ultimately, is it realistic? Right? And is it so big? You know, is it ever going to be achievable? And then I want you to think about this as well. I want you to think, what are the hopes and dreams that you have for you first? And then I want to remind you of the hopes and dreams that you have for your children, whether you birthed them, adopted them, raised them, whether they're grandchildren or nieces and nephews or great nieces and nephews or friends. I want you to think about younger people, AKA not your children or your children. What are your hopes for them? And then I want to challenge you right now to pick 2 things. You can put them in the chat bar. You can just think to yourself what they are. I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Take a drink of my water-based beverage, which is water right now. Because I'll tell you what, I know what they are. And I'll be shocked if the choices I'm going to show you right now aren't your choices. What do we want for the people in our life, which is usually younger people in our lives that we love, whether, again, related or not? Especially, you can think about your children or young people in your life who you love with every cell in your body. You know what you want? You want them to be healthy and you want them to be happy. The problem is you're not willing to put your oxygen mask on first to self-care for you, to find your health and happiness, to role model those behaviors that got you there. And what ends up happening is your whys may not be enough And what I know for sure after being a nutrition professional for my entire adult life, that those food choices, especially the highly processed, ultra processed, high fat, high sugar, high sodium, convenience foods, takeouts, going out, it's easier, it's cheaper often, it tastes better. That unfortunately for too many prospective clients, that they are more important than all of those people in this visual right here. And I want you to think about that for a minute. I want you to hold that for a minute. So I have to talk about this. We're halfway through. I think we're good on track, even though I have only 17 of 71 slides. That's not true. I'm less than that. The reality is we are in an obesity crisis. We are in an obesity pandemic globally. And it is projected. And I want you to listen to this carefully, whether you are a parent of a young child, or whether you're a Mimi of a young child, or whether you're a great grandma or grandpa or an aunt or uncle or a friend to young children that live right now today anywhere in this world, that this generation of children is projected to be fatter and sicker than their parents. This is earth-shattering to me as a dietitian, as a mother, as a humanitarian. And I'm here to tell you that until you, the aunt, the grandparent, the dad, the friend, the neighbor, is willing to shift their eating approach, not all the time, but most of the time, to more wholesome, real food, nobody's going to listen. And this is only going to proliferate. It's a big statement. And I'm hoping that you're taking a moment to hold it. There's no magic here. There's no pills and potions I can offer you. There's no particular food that you need to eat. It is simply a healthy eating pattern that fits into your lifestyle. Hopefully eating more plants in general. And, whether you say, well, I can't eat this and I can't eat that and I da-da-da-da-da. The majority of my clients eat everything. Okay, but if you have celiac disease or ulcerative colitis, or maybe you have an allergy to peanuts, there are certain things we have to work around. But the majority of people actually have the ability to consume beautiful, wholesome food on a regular basis. They're just not doing it now. So it's causing them to be malnourished. It's causing them to overeat calories. It's causing them to feel awful. And as we start to make little shifts in your health, not only do you lose the weight that is on all of our minds, but we start to improve our health and we start to role model healthy behaviors for the people we love. Anybody in this room who has great or nieces and nephews, anybody that young adolescents into teenagers, love to see this in the chat bar. What kind of foods are they eating? Because I know what they're eating. I know there's a whole hell of a lot of processed foods that are from the freezer or in boxes that are high in fat, high in sodium, high in sugar. Thinking things like French fries and chicken nuggets. Things that disguise themselves as vegetables, except they're not vegetables, in a bag that's crunchy. What's happening out there for the convenience, what's happening out there because we've gotten our palate used to these foods, is the demise of society. I just said it to you, listen to it again. The obesity, in this obesity pandemic, this generation of children are projected to be fatter and sicker than their parents. Guess what? I've already educated my children, done my job, feeling pretty damn good about that. And now it's my grandchildren. And thankfully, I have the parents of the grandchildren are on board, already eating beautiful food, but really important, when I have those kids, what I am teaching them, what I'm providing for them, and how we include treats and splurges, which are 100% of things that happen when they're with me. Oh no, that is a smoke detector. Whew. I'm going to try to keep going. Shoot. Last time I did a presentation, oh, thank goodness. I don't know what that was about. Hope we keep going. Let me keep going. Holy smokes, what's happening downstairs? I've never had my smoke alarm go off. So here's the reality, my friends. This is our futures. Mine too, right? We start walking. Like my grandson is literally on the hands and knees now, 6 months old, doing the old rock and roll, and I love it. One of my favorite things, along with Happy Baby, right? We get into our senior years. We might need a little help, by the way, as we have, our bodies start to decline with arthritis and joints and things. So we might need a little help. But I don't want to end up in that wheelchair. I don't know about you. So guess what? The old use it or lose it. Yeah, we better keep moving. But that food is paramount. And so the reality, my friends, is this: the repercussions of ongoing chronic conditions include hypertension, high blood sugar, high blood lipids. So you might know these things as high cholesterol, prediabetes, diabetes, high blood pressure, that lead to lifestyle diseases that can and will shorten your life and add to years of disability. So look at it. What are lifestyle-induced chronic diseases? Heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome, which is kind of this combination of high blood sugar, high cholesterol, potentially hypertension, adipose tissue around the midsection, especially we see more of that as we age, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, and some cancers, including colorectal cancers, kidney cancers. And, the issue with doing your own research, I love this meme. Honey, come back. I found some information all the world's top scientists and doctors missed. And what about this one? I want the truth, so I'm going to do my own research. All right, this is where we talk about confirmation bias. When we Google what I already believe. Well, I heard the ketogenic diet is healthy, and then we can ask, right? Google, what's healthy about the ketogenic diet? And you're going to get everything you want to hear. How about Googling, is there a problem with the ketogenic diet? And by the way, who was the ketogenic diet developed for, right? So let's consider focusing on two things, because I'm not going to deny your weight goal is important. I have clients who come to me to gain weight, and my weight loss clients are so jealous, but I will tell you, my weight gain clients, it's so hard, and they must gain weight for a multitude of reasons, mostly for their health. So your weight goal, weight loss, weight gain, homeostasis, I'm in for a multitude of reasons. I have clients who lose hundreds of pounds and like, oh my God, I can walk. I have no more pain. I can put my own shoes on. I mean, big deals, but 10 pounds, 10% of your weight right now lost, 5 to 10% can shift your health in a positive way. So if you're 200 pounds, female, you may have a goal of 140 pounds, but 10%, 10 to 20 pounds can change the trajectory of your life. So I want to focus on weight goals, and I want to focus on health goals. So I want to know your story. I want to tell you that your story matters. And what I want to ask you is this: are your medical providers listening? We went to, I said, a new cardiologist yesterday. And I practiced with my 60-year-old husband. in terms of what's your story? Tell your story. All right. Story starts with family history. Dad has COPD. Dad had stents and strokes in his 60s. Mom's family, chronic diabetes. That's his story, right? From his family perspective, then his own story, a high cholesterol, for the last 20 years, often on statins, different things that he could share with him, some concerns he's having about how he's feeling with our strenuous exercise, by the way, which is a regular for us, strenuous exercise. So any changes in somebody who's exercising on a regular basis needs to be listened to. But guess what? If you go from the couch and you start walking, you don't know it's supposed to be normal. So is your medical provider listening? And perhaps more importantly, are you telling your story? They need to listen. And if they're not listening, find somebody else. We've got to prioritize wellness. We've got to think about a healthy diet, a healthy eating pattern. We've got to think about regular exercise. We've got to think about relaxation. And we've got to think about plenty of rest, which means sleep. So these are all things we're going to cover over this webinar series, over the next 3 series. How I'm going to shove them together for you is still unknown. Usually things, spark my thoughts in the middle of the night. So stay tuned for what's coming. But as a trained integrative and functional nutritionist, number one, it was really important when I was looking for a qualified master's program that it was led by science and evidence, because there's so much bull in the integrative health space. Naturopaths and functional medicine doctors and integrative doctors who, have a certificate. I want you to remember that medical doctors, so MDs, DOs, my daughter's going off to PA school. She is going to get some nutrition education, whether it's be a moment, nurse practitioners. There is little to no education in terms of nutrition. So your medical providers should be referring you to highly educated nutrition professionals, including registered dietitians or people like me who have a long resume. And understand that it's important because your health revolves around your diet and stress and hormones and genetics and medications and supplements and your exercise and toxins you've been exposed to and will be exposed to, and your digestion and your sleep. Like all those play a role in your health, but your diet approach plays a huge role in all of your body's functions. And I literally could have had a million arrows going one way to another, because your diet is going to influence how you're able to exercise, and how you're able to exercise is influenced by your diet. I can go all over the place. But how do we prioritize that diet? What does that look like? What does eating healthier look like? What does eating a healthy eating pattern look like? So my goal for you and me is the reality of the aging process. When we consider all of those parameters there, and we really think about using food as medicine in your life, can remove this possibility. Long, healthy, independent, and joyful life. So you have to not think, how the hell am I going to do this? How big is this? How complicated is this? We got to just think about some SMART goals. So I challenge you. You can Google SMART goals. It is a thing. It's a very specific thing. You're not going to get multiple approaches to this, but you got to come up with specific goals. What do you want? And that's what I said. What are your goals? Yeah, I want to lose weight. It's really important to me to lose weight, but I also I got to figure out what's happening with my gut distress. I've got to figure out why I'm sleeping so terrible. What's going on? They got to be measurable. How will you know when you reach it? So with my clients, we could easily, have a weight goal. Their goals are usually far beyond where I want them to be, because they're telling me when I was in high school, or when I got married, or before I had my first baby, or 50 years later. Come on. But I also have them do measurements. I also have them take pictures of themselves in something that's tight fitting. I have them take pictures in clothes that maybe don't fit appropriately or to their liking. And then we have all these, I have them do a time mile, whether they walk, crawl, or run it. I don't care. We have these little measurable goals that they could see. Oh my gosh, after 12 weeks, holy smokes. Life has really changed dramatically for me. And then we continue on with this healthy eating pattern. And then guess what? When you reach goals, we get to add treats and splurges back into our life. And it doesn't mean you don't get treats and splurges during that time, but if weight loss is a big deal and you want that goal like that, you're telling me that's a priority, then we gotta curtail some extracurricular calories, my friends. What is a smart, achievable goal? Is it in your power to accomplish it? Is the goal realistic? And then we got to set up some time parameters. I want to, over the next 3 months, lose 10 pounds. I want to start to feel better. Right? So we are going to do an entire webinar really focused on the blue zones, because what I want to say to you is there with all the research, and you can search the ketogenic diet, you can just search the Atkins diet, you can search the no sugar, no grain diet, and they're going to spew all kinds of bull trying to get you to partake in that diet, not really giving a crap, by the way, of the long-term outcome and the sustainability on a million different levels, whether it's about your being able to do it, whether about how it's harming the planet, a million aspects of that. But when you do that research, it is impossible to take a population of people, lock them in a laboratory, feed them, control every morsel they eat, exercise them, control every aspect of life. We can't do it. So we have these randomized control studies, we have big studies like with the women's nursing group and different groups that we can start to see tendencies with certain approaches. But really the value in terms of lifestyle approaches, I go to these blue zones and I love them. And if you're not familiar, highly recommend potentially renting or buying the book called The Blue Zones. There's only one, written by two brothers who worked for, maybe they still work for National Geographic, who set out to find regions in the world where we had more men who lived past 100, which means we were going to have more women who lived past 100. And what were their commonalities? And so we find five places in the world: Asia, the Mediterranean, Latin countries, and right here in Southern California. And what do we know about these communities? In this Ikaria, Greece, it's a little island that happen to have half the rate of heart disease and almost no dementia. And they happen to live 8 years longer than Americans. Hope they're doing something right. In Loma Linda, right here in Southern California. They happen to be a community of Seventh-day Adventists, and they eat a more plant-based or exclusively plant-based diet, and they see valuable lessons in faith and friendship and fruit. Costa Rica, right? Very active community. The residents there are twice as likely than Americans to reach the healthy age of 90. Is it something in the water? Sardinia, Italy. That's my next trip to Italy. Maybe next year. Their lifestyle approach has not changed much since the time of Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago. And right there in Okinawa, Japan, we have the world's longest lived women eating 3 foods that could help every human live longer. Well, guess what? You can go to the Blue Zones website and you can click right on these things and learn more about them. But again, you don't live there. So how do we take these themes, right, which are the following: a healthy eating pattern, prioritizing your food because we do it multiple times a day, food closer to its original form, so intact food, like a banana over banana bread. The quality of your food choices, and I'm not talking about organic versus conventional or GMOs versus not, the quality of your food. Cheetos, right, versus corn on the cob. Calorie balance, depending on what that goal is in terms of your weight. And they talk about the power of 9. And as I mentioned, we're going to get into this more in the next webinar. The power of the 9 will start on the left, family first. There's a huge, tremendous sense of family and families coming together and families living together. It's a lost art here in the United States. We've got to downshift. We've got to find ways to relax. We've got to practice meditation and yoga and things that can just remove some stress. We've got to have a sense of purpose. We've got to have a thought process for the greater good about being a humanitarian, about caring about our neighbors. We've got to have the right tribes. If you're hanging with people who lead unhealthy lifestyles and have unhealthy behaviors, lots of alcohol, cigarette smoking, maybe recreational drug use, inactivity, eating lots of highly processed food, you don't stand a chance. Doesn't mean you have to rid yourself of these people, but you've got to find some new people as well. And then you can start to influence your people. It's a plant slant. I didn't say plant exclusive, which is a vegan approach. I said a plant slant, mostly plants. A sense of belonging with some kind of spirituality. It doesn't have to be a formal religion. Today is, what is it? The highest day in the Jewish religion. Not Rosh Hashanah. Is it Rosh Hashanah? Oh, anyway, today is a day of fast for them. It allows them to become closer to God. And so that sense of community within your spirituality, within your particular religion, really important. The ability to move naturally. So I'm not talking about calculated exercise, though I'm a fan of calculated exercise, but being more active, getting on your bike to go to the grocery store, gardening, using the stairs, having social hours, right? Coming together and having sociability with people you enjoy, and us talking about the 80% rule. Elena's room. Yes. The 80% rule. Okay, most of the time, right? Trying to do these things, not all of the time, but maybe like Mama G, it becomes all the time because you see the value in it. So the last couple of slides here is what I'm going to leave you with. Healthy plate approach. And I happen to love this Bastur approach. I made some changes to it. So we will send you the link to these healthy plates. There's 3 of them here, but this is the one I want you to focus on, which is a flexitarian approach, where you can see within this plate, and I think that I want you to focus on these kind of things for lunch and dinner. I'm going to go over a few minutes, going to state it out loud. Lunch and dinner, because this is where we have the ability to include more vegetables. Most of my clients like sweet breakfast, although you certainly could add vegetables to your breakfast. But when we're thinking about lunch and dinner, we want to fill half of that plate with vegetables, sauteed, roasted, raw, whatever floats your boat. But how you prepare these vegetables is paramount to your wanting to consume these vegetables. Quarter of that plate, guess what? You don't have to admit the grains or the starches. But we eat more whole grains and more wholesome starches, and you get a portion, not the whole plate. You get a quarter of that plate of some kind of protein. Typically, we say lean proteins, but you'll see cheese in there and eggs in there, and nuts in there, which are not lean whatsoever, but they offer lots of value, and it's all about portion size. And then you see in the middle, we get fats. Right, so that fat may just happen to be in the protein choice or how you're cooking things or using some olive oil and sauteing or roasting things. But it's a small amount to bring health and joy and satiety and all kinds of things. And then there's that little tiny corner in there, which you may not even be aware of, which are called digestives. These are these probiotics in food that we talk about. You probably heard about the microbiome, and we will talk about that in one of the lectures as well, or the webinars. Things like Greek yogurt and fermented food like kimchi and kombucha. We only need little bits of these things to give us these doses of prebiotics, these healthy microbes. But guess what? Those cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower and arugula and kale and broccoli and other vegetables that we can actually feed those microbes that we have in our gut to keep them alive and try to push out the bad guys are really valuable. And then notice we've got water. As I mentioned to you, water at every meal and snack, and have water with you all the time. And you never have to worry about being dehydrated. And the last thing on there, you see fruit sitting off in the corner because we're not wanting you to consume large amounts of fruit, but they should be part of your life. What will come with the attachment that we'll send to you is the vegan vegetarian approach. And you'll see the only difference in here is there's no animal flesh. And then we can look at the vegan approach, which now the only thing that changed again is no animal products at all. But again, now we get into we're having some deficiencies. We've got to think about calcium. We've got to think about protein. We've got to think about B12. We've got to think about vitamin D. So there's going to be some supplementation that's going to be necessary with a vegan diet and a little more forethought. But that's okay. That's your jam. So ultimately, my friends, it is easier. And I promise you, this is my life's work. It is easier to change a man's religion than it is to change their diet. Thank you, Margaret Mead, said many moons ago. And, I want to remind you of who I am and what I offer to you. Our website is mamagslifestyle.com. You can reach me at mamagslifestyle.com. So either one of those locations. And I want to just share with you, if this intrigues you, I run a 12-week virtual group experience. We start the last one of the year on October 10th, and I will take clients for 2 weeks. So you will have another webinar series in this mix, to hear me again if you have any interest. But the bottom line is I want you to come home to the Mama G lifestyle. I want to teach you the value of cooking beautiful, wholesome food and how it will inspire you to lead a long, healthy, independent, joyful life. We can accomplish so much. Really, the number one priority is education. All I want from my clients during this time is to come to class, and all the sessions I do for them, and there's 12 live sessions. They are all recorded. So I have clients across the country who can't be with me live, but we start on October 10th officially. I have an early bird special up to that date, $300 off. I will give anybody who is interested in hearing more about it a 30-minute complimentary call with me. So reach out. And the bottom line, my friends, is this is something I run 4 times a year. It may not be your moment. But if and when you need more, again, my goal is to give you tricks and tools and strategies. I offer free cook-alongs every single month to move you towards a healthier eating pattern, less chaos in your life, give you the opportunity to live that long, healthy, independent, joyful life. But some of you may want more. Right? So let's look at your questions and comments here. Let me get out of here. Let me entertain you. I think I stopped my share. Right? Yes. Okay. So let's just take a peek at some of the Q&A. Diane says, how do you feel about juicing? So there's a juicer, and then there are high-speed blenders. Juicers take all of your fruits and vegetables that you throw into it and take out what is just important as the vitamins and minerals that you got from the fruit and vegetables. And they take out that beautiful, so critically important fiber that will help you reduce your risk of colorectal cancers and drive your health. So a juicer, sell it. Throwing all of those things into a blender, great. But at the end of the day, are you getting enough fat, healthy fats? Are you getting enough protein? Are you over consuming fruit calories? So, right? So lots of questions there. Diane said, I enjoy sweets, but I know I need to cut back. That might have been the problem with cancer, but I feel stress has something to do with it. So healthy living, weight maintenance. So Diane is a breast cancer survivor. Here's what I'm going to tell you. We have genes that turn on. Many times they're beyond our control. I had bladder cancer. Okay, not one risk factor. It is a reality. The key is, like with you, Diane, early diagnosis, right? So that we are now survivors and potentially cured of our cancers. But they make us scared. I got cancer. Did I cause that? Because I lived, I grew up near LAX. Did all of the toxins cause my cancer? I don't know. But the fact is, I've caught it early. I have been cancer-free for 9 years now, going on 10 years. And the only thing I have in control of my life, and perhaps you guys will resonate, is what I put in my mouth and how I move my body. Everything else is a guess. So yes, we want to choose more wholesome food. We want to be able to live at a healthy weight, whatever that is for you. But what I know with my clients is that as we get into a healthy eating pattern and we actually follow a food template and we choose foods that we love, we are more satisfied within the meal. We're more satiated between meal to meal and meal to snack. And so we no longer have the cravings. I promise you. My clients, within 2 weeks of working with me and moving towards a healthier approach to food, no longer are called to the crap. The key is to, help you to learn how to have the willpower and resiliency to resist those things when, it's like, oh, my weight's pretty good. I'm feeling really good. These things need to be added into your life as treats and splurges, but we got to maintain the healthy eating pattern, making sure we're getting a lot of nutrition and in a calculated way so that these treats that we tend to overconsume don't take over again. Another Diane said she's suffering with depression. She can't lose weight and she can't stop the craving. So again, I'm going to say, and then she says, I failed Mama G, except she didn't fail Mama G. When we can focus on the education, the healthy eating pattern, I have a very specific healthy eating pattern that the majority of my clients succumb to, but the education is paramount. You got to come and listen and learn why. And then based on you and your personal story, we start to incorporate foods that feel good to you. The key is, how do we get you appropriate nutrients, getting the appropriate calories as well to not only help you lose the weight, but to help you feel satisfied and satiated, which allows that brain and gut to connect better and feel better. That will stop the cravings. You will be in a calorie deficit, so you will lose weight, and you did lose weight until you decided to do things your own way. It's okay. You're not alone. Believe me, I have plenty of clients who come back over and over again. But the depression piece, my friends, and I speak not only to this Diane, but to all of you, psychotherapy is almost necessary in our lives in 2020. My clients who are new with me, we focus on our food for the first 12 weeks. Then we start to talk about incorporating exercising. Initially, it's always a walking program because I can get them to walk in that first 12 weeks. But anything more than walking, it's got to happen after that first 12 weeks of education. And then we start to talk about, are they somebody who needs to have some psychotherapy, whether it's DBT or CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, whether it's talk therapy. And by the way, maybe they need a psychiatrist in the mix, working with their therapist to potentially use some medications to help calm the anxiety, help to improve the depression. It's hard. Life today is hard. Let me look at that was the Q&A. Let me see if there's anything in the chat bar. Where did it go? Chris said 72-year-old weight loss is her goal. So did you see what her goal was? So I told you the majority of people come to me. I don't care how old you are, what your age is. Their number one goal is weight loss. I've got to be able to educate you to the power of wholesome food. I've got to be able to shift your mindset to longevity and decrease disability. And I know for this particular person, I know her and I know her story is that she is her tribe, though lovely human beings, are also her nemesis because of their food choices. And it's really hard when you live in a house where people are using a lot of highly processed, ultra processed foods and are not supporting a healthy eating pattern. And so for somebody like this, these are people that I wish I could literally pick up and bring home to live with me. But I will say, I suggest to this person who happens to be a lifestyle member, have access to everything I do, come to every lesson. Recorded or not, commit to the 12 lessons that I provide. And if nothing else, that will begin to educate you on to how you can shift that approach in your life. Janice said, goal, release weight. I love that. Release the secret weapon and have optimal health. Perfect. It's exactly what I'm suggesting to you. Mary said, I have started to lose interest in cooking because my husband is on a vegan diet due to kidney disease and is quite particular about veggies that he does like. So I know I'm meeting with you on Mary for that complimentary session. I can't wait to hear who his medical practitioner is that told him he needs to be on a vegan diet. There is absolutely no reason that anybody, even with kidney disease, needs to be participating in a vegan diet. And so I'm going to encourage you and him to move more into a flexible diet approach, including some animal protein. But we'll talk about that on Friday. So that's really difficult. She says, I worry about him getting enough protein. You should worry. And I'm frustrated about it. I did used to like cooking very well. Maybe I should make cooking day and then freeze some extras. I just turned 73. You and me, Mary, we'll have a conversation on Friday. Diane says, what about eating regularly like a schedule? Difficult to find time, not for me, but thinking more for my husband. Sleeping habits are not great, so eating it off, does that make sense? Oh, Yom Kippur, thank you. A Day of Atonement. Yes, I know about that. As a very faithful Catholic, Jesus, the original Jew, I love to learn about other faiths. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. So eating patterns are healthy eating patterns. So healthy eating pattern mean like we're eating specifically in a certain way. It doesn't mean you could have Chinese and Italian and whatever floats your boat. But an eating pattern is like we actually like eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and potentially 2 snacks. That's my jam. I don't care what time you eat. You can eat dinner at 10 o'clock at night, but you got to get your nutrition in. You cannot be malnourished. By eating, with a template and a game plan and a certain amount of food, you're not reaching for crap. And by actually closing the kitchen after a certain time, which I don't think is a bad idea in general for you guys, my clients and I we don't care about timing, but sometimes you need to close the kitchen. After 7, 8 o'clock, close the kitchen because nothing good happens late at night in that kitchen. You know that. So, and then eating a more wholesome diet, and then working on sleep hygiene will help to get the 7 to 8 hours that we adults need every single night. And by the way, large portion of human beings has sleep apnea. So people need to be evaluated in that aspect as well. So many things covered. So glad all of you participated with me. Keep watching your email. Make sure you're getting that things aren't getting dumped in the spam. We will follow up in the next day or two with the link to this. If you want to share it with other people, if you want to re-listen to anything, we'll send you the Bastur Healthy Plates to help you move towards that. And then I'd love responses from all of you or some of you in terms of things you would like me to cover over the next 3 webinars, focusing on using food as medicine. And if you don't know it yet, you'll know it soon. You know what Mama G always says, it's not about what you lose. It's all about what you gain. Have a beautiful day. Take care.